Rain hammered the windshield. I squinted, trying to see the road. Long day at work. Tired but relieved. Almost home. Then I saw it. A figure by the side of the road, hand outstretched. Hitchhiker. I hesitated. It was late and this road was deserted. But something about the figure's slumped shoulders made me stop. I rolled down the window, just a crack. "Need a lift?" I asked, my voice almost lost in the downpour. The figure turned, slowly. My breath caught in my throat. The face looking in was pale, eyes hollow, and it was soaking wet, water streaming from its hair and clothes, like it had been standing in the rain for hours. "Thanks," the figure croaked, its voice raspy and low. "But you might not want to go this way. The road, it's closed." A chill ran down my spine. I could have sworn the road ahead looked clear just moments ago. Then a flash of lightning illuminated the road ahead, revealing a gaping chasm where the road should be. I found it while cleaning out my grandmother's things. A small tarnished key tucked away in the corner of a dusty old jewelry box. It didn't look like any of the keys I remembered from her house. Curious, I slipped it into my pocket. Later that night, I couldn't shake the feeling of the cold metal against my leg. Days turned into weeks, and I still hadn't figured out what the key went to. One night, restless and unable to sleep, I found myself drawn back to the box of my grandmother's things. As I sifted through old photographs and letters, I felt a chill. A strange sense of unease settled over me. Then I saw it. A small faded photograph tucked into the back of the box. It showed my grandmother standing on the porch of her house, a mischievous glint in her eye. Beside her, almost invisible in the shadows, was a small wooden shed. I'd never seen that shed before. Heart pounding, I grabbed the key and rushed outside. My grandmother's house had been empty since she died, but tonight a single light flickered inside the shed. The key felt warm in my hand. I knew what I had to do. The old library was silent at night. I liked it that way. Peace and quiet, surrounded by books. My footsteps echoed on the wooden floor as I made my rounds. Checking windows, turning off lights, routine. That night, though, something felt different. A prickling sensation on the back of my neck, like I was being watched. I paused, listening. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Must be my imagination, I thought. I continued my rounds. As I passed the history section, I heard it again, a soft whisper coming from the stacks. I froze, holding my breath. The whisper came again, closer this time, a name, my name. Fear coiled in my stomach. I was alone in the library, or was I? Slowly, I turned towards the sound. My hand trembled as I reached for the light switch. The fluorescent lights flickered on, casting harsh shadows across the shelves. And there, in the aisle between the books, I saw it. It was an antique, ornate and beautiful, a gift from my aunt, meant to brighten up my new apartment. But there was something about its reflection that felt off, subtle but unsettling, like it wasn't quite me looking back. I tried to ignore it, told myself it was just the lighting or the angle, but the feeling persisted. Every time I caught my reflection, I felt a shiver run down my spine, as if the person in the mirror was someone else wearing my face. One night I woke up in a cold sweat. My heart was racing and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I sat up in bed, my gaze drawn to the mirror across the room, and that's when I saw it. My reflection was different. It smiled, a slow, cruel stretching of lips. My reflection winked, a knowing glint in its eye. Panic surged through me. This wasn't me, this wasn't my reflection. Section 5, the back seat. Driving home from a friend's house, late. Empty roads, streetlights casting an orange glow. I glanced in the rearview mirror, a habit. Just the empty back seat as always. At least it should have been. My breath hitched. For a split second, I thought I saw something in the back seat. A dark shape, huddled low. I quickly looked again, heart pounding. Nothing. Just my imagination playing tricks in the dark. I tried to shake it off, focus on the road. but a nagging unease settled in my stomach. I kept glancing nervously at the rearview mirror every few seconds. Each time the back seat was empty, but the feeling of being watched intensified. Then my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I glanced down at the screen and my blood ran cold. It was a message from my mum. "Honey, please be careful driving home and check the back seat." Section 6, the phone call. The phone rang, shattering the silence. I jumped, startled. It was late, way past midnight. Who would be calling at this hour? Hesitantly, I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" Silence, just the faint crackle of the line. "Hello? Who is this?" I repeated, my voice tight with apprehension. Still no answer. I was about to hang up when I heard it. A soft, raspy whisper on the other end of the line. "Help me!" My blood ran cold. The voice... It sounded familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. It was weak, desperate, sending chills down my spine. "Who is this?" I whispered back, my hand trembling. "Who needs help?" The whisper came again, closer this time, as if the person on the other end was right beside me. "It's me, I'm trapped." And then I recognized the voice. It was my own voice, echoing back to me from the other side of the line. Section 7, the shortcut. We were running late, already past curfew, lost in the woods, trying to find our way back to the campsite. "I know a shortcut," my friend whispered, grinning mischievously. "Come on." I hesitated. The woods were dark, the trees pressing in close on either side of the path. But my friend was already disappearing into the undergrowth. Reluctantly, I followed. The shortcut was a narrow trail, barely visible beneath a carpet of dead leaves. The air grew colder, damper. The sounds of the forest seemed to fade, replaced by an unnerving silence. I quickened my pace, trying to catch up with my friend, but he was gone. I stopped, my heart pounding in my chest. "Hey!" I called out. "Where are you?" Only silence greeted me. I turned around, desperate to find my way back to the main path. But every direction looked the same. The trees seemed to press in closer, their branches reaching out like grasping claws. Section 8, the babysitter. The kids were asleep finally. I settled down on the couch with a book, enjoying the quiet. Babysitting wasn't so bad when they were quiet. A clap of thunder rattled the windows. The storm had arrived. The phone on the end table rang, making me jump. I answered, expecting it to be the kids' parents checking in, but the voice on the other end was low and distorted, barely audible above the static. "Are you alone in the house?" I frowned, my unease growing. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. The voice chuckled, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Don't worry about who I am," it said. "Just tell me, are the children still awake?" I glanced nervously towards the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. The kids were sound asleep in their beds, weren't they? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "They're asleep," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Section 9. The old house. We dared each other to go inside. The abandoned house at the end of the street, shrouded in rumors and whispered stories. No one had lived there for years, not since... Well, nobody talked about what happened. The front door creaked open with a groan, like it was inviting us inside. Dust hung heavy in the air, thick with the smell of decay and something faintly sweet, like overripe fruit. We stepped inside, our whispers echoing in the silence. The house was dark, the windows boarded up, but shafts of sunlight pierced through the cracks, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. We moved cautiously from room to room, our footsteps loud on the bare floorboards. Then we heard it, a soft humming coming from upstairs, a child's lullaby sung in a sweet, haunting voice. We froze, our blood turning to ice. We were supposed to be alone. Section 10. The fog. It rolled in from the sea, thick and white, swallowing the town whole. 1 minute the sun was shining, the next we were plunged into an eerie silence. Visibility was reduced to a few feet. It felt wrong, unnatural. People gathered on the street corners, their voices hushed with unease. No one knew where the fog had come from, or how to escape it. The air grew heavy, difficult to breathe, thick with the smell of salt and something else, something metallic. I stayed close to my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, her hand trembling on my arm. We could hear sounds through the fog, muffled and distorted. Footsteps echoing on the pavement, getting closer. And then a figure emerged from the swirling whiteness. Tall and gaunt with long, sharp fingers. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, piercing the fog. It opened its mouth, and a sound like 1,000 whispers escaped.